Welcome to the latest episode of the Villa Pride Down Under podcast, an Aston Villa supporters podcast based here in Australia. All your three hosts, me, Mr. Tess, and Mr. Rhino. Hello, boys.
Hello.
Hey, mate, how are you?
I'm very good. Tess?
Oh, mate,
What's
doing
new,
really,
mate?
really good. I'm doing really, really good. Just off air, I just noticed that you boys were drinking a cup of tea. Come on. Big things to celebrate. Lots happening, mate. There are other brands of beer also, if you would like to.
Mate, I've got my special coaster. It is Happy Paul McGrath Day to every villain out there. The great man signed on this day in 1989, so I don't know if you can see that, but that's my coaster for tonight, boys.
Oh, I love
Paul
it.
McGrath Day, mate.
Brings a tear to my eye. Happy Paul McGrath Day. They should have a national day off in Ireland for that.
Yeah, we'll take one in Australia if he wants. I mean,
Yeah,
they have a lot
100%,
of public holidays here.
Rhino, very interesting background. Since I spoke to you this morning, have you caught a flight to Birmingham or?
Yeah, live reporting from Villa Park. Just a bit going on here with the pyrotechnics behind me. A bit warm, but yeah, just a quick flight over for me.
Tess?
Hey,
Sure, we're going to discuss the gear soon enough, but I see you're rocking one of the nicest training gear, one I really like. Are you going to be dipping into some new training gear this season?
Oh, mate, I already have dipped in. So, luckily, because the previous makers of our kits were local, according to Chris Heck, said that local couldn't really do much. Now we're with Adidas, which is a global brand in 120 countries. All of a sudden, Villa are massive again. And so I went to JD Sports online today and I've ordered my top in Australia. Should be here by Friday or Monday. Cannot wait. It looks awesome as well. I really like it. Like, I don't know, it has a kind of retro feel to the kit, this one. Even though it's not retro and it's new, it just has a retro kind of look to me. So can't wait to get my hands on it and like put it on and wear it for the next episode.
Excellent. Rhino, you've obviously seen it, and what's your thoughts on the kit?
Yeah, I really like it. Like Tess saying, quite a simple home kit. I think it's a really nice kit, and just being able to get the kit in Australia so quickly is just a massive bonus for us, isn't it? We haven't got to pay, to get it shipped from back in the UK and all the cost that comes with that. But the dangerous thing is when you jump on JD Sports and you search Aston Villa, they got some of the old retro kits. So they've got the old blue 1996 AST computers top for $80. So
yeah.
I'm probably going to be skint until next payday.
Feeding the kids is overrated anyway, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, I want to, but before we continue with the jersey thing, I just want to tell you a funny story there about earlier. And right, the Football Social Daily podcast. So the three lads that are on it, they're Marley, Joel, and Niall. And it's a really good podcast. But Marley's a big Newcastle fan, So I don't know if you've seen a lot of the Newcastle fans melting down online because Al Ittihad are after buying Diaby, and they're basically getting onto their owners saying, "Why are you strengthening one of our Champions League rivals by buying Diaby off them?" Like giving them more money to spend elsewhere because it's the same owners that own Newcastle and own Al Ittihad, right? And I was like, such a weird thing to be getting upset about, but like you can kind of see their point a little bit too. Like, so I messaged Marley because he's a big Newcastle fan. And I was like, where did you see the madness that's going on with the Newcastle fans at the moment, getting all upset like about your owners buying Diaby? And he messaged me back, and I was laughing. He goes, "Yeah, but imagine the scenes in January when Newcastle loaned Diaby." I was like, "Whoa, can you imagine?" I was like, "Plot twist." When you imagine the meltdown if Diaby rocked up at St James's Park in January.
I did not know that. I didn't know that that's the club that is affiliated with Newcastle.
Yeah,
is that true?
All four of them. Yeah, Al Ittihad, Al Nassr, and the other two I can't remember exactly now. But yeah,
are you kidding me?
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty much signed. Yeah, it looks like it's pretty much here we go, isn't it? With
no, I think it's done.
Diaby, looks like
your contract signed. Yeah, I thought that was very funny to Newcastle fans. Why are our owners trying to help Villa by giving them funds? And then I was like, I never thought of that. Imagine, it wouldn't happen obviously, but imagine if Diaby, when Marley said that to me, imagine the scenes when Diaby arrives back in Newcastle in January. I was like, can you imagine Villa Twitter then, lads?
Oh my
Oh,
goodness! What do you make of this? Because we discussed this sale, didn't we? In the last episode, we discussed whether we should be keeping Diab and whether he should have another season. What do you reckon now that it looks like he's actually gone, and I think contracts are signed and medical's about to happen?
Look, I mean, I know me and Rhino touched off this a few weeks ago as well, and this is before it all kind of came out, Rhino, isn't it? I think it was the episode you were there and we spoke to you about it the week after. And before the
yeah.
news of him even being sold, where me and Rhino were discussing him, and we put him down as one of those players we're expecting to have a big season for us, like, coming into the new season. And I'm surprised. Look, I mean, I can now when you're looking at the figures bandied about, and even though there's a lot of mixed reports around there, like there is obviously a lot of sense in it for Villa, but I don't know. It's a weird one. Like I'd love to know. I just love to know how it all started. Like, did his agent push it? Did Villa push it? Is it coming? Someone had to instigate it. Like because it's not like it was an unhappy camp. He wasn't an unhappy player. Yeah, okay, he was a bit upset that he wasn't starting every game, but that you kind of want to see that in a player. It's not like he had a terrible season. Is there a bit of
It's
buying up?
interesting though because
Which is so weird, man.
he had a good start, didn't he? Like he had a really good start to the season, and then later on he kind of like drifted out a little bit, and then
He got injured early on, didn't he, as well? Didn't he pick up an injury early on and sort of hampered him a little bit? But he did start well, and you expect players coming in from a different league, different country to sort of have a bit of time to settle, don't you? But the surprising thing for me is he is an Unai Emery signing. It's not like he was a Gerrard signing and then Emery's come in, doesn't fancy him, and then selling him on. Like one season, I'm pretty disappointed with it, to be honest. But
maybe
in Unai
Unai's
we trust,
disappointed.
and I'm sure they'll have something lined up. There's a lot of money coming in, and I'm sure they're working hard, aren't they, at the minute to try and get a replacement.
Well, if
Is that
you
money funding Onana though? Do you reckon, or that money will be separate to Onana and we might dip back in again?
I think we'll dip back in. I just think a player of that quality. I know we've got some talent already, further forward on the field, but I think, with Champions League football now, I think we have to replace Diaby. There's obviously a lot of talk of Joao Felix in the media and, quite a big name that's floating around out there, but I do think we need someone coming in. Who that is, I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on Joao Felix, to be honest, but I think we will bring someone in, especially with, obviously Duran looking like he's going to go out the door as well. I think there'll be a striker number 10 coming in.
right, guys, that kind of brings on to a good point there right now. So, like you're talking about Joe Felix there. So let's talk about this for a minute, boys. Right. So I'll mention some of the names to you. This is just some that have been linked as the replacements, and I'll go get your opinion on each one of them because it's not something we've really discussed. Actually, to be fair, we've discussed the Diaby selling, but we haven't really discussed his replacement too much in detail. So some of these links are obviously going to be from non-reputable sources, and others we know that they are linked, right? So we won't go too crazy.
Newspaper.
Just some of the names, right? We won't go for the hyperbolic ones, but I'll start off with Joe Felix, a good one, obviously, to start. We know there's links there. We know there was links there last year. Rhino, you said there that you're not too gone on him, so I'll let Tess start on his opinion first, and I'll get you to deep dive a bit further on what you think. But Tess, what's your thoughts on Joe Felix?
I think Joao Felix is a talented player, and we saw him at Chelsea in a team that was underperforming, if I'm not mistaken. He looked kind of sharp at a lot of times while he was playing for Chelsea, from what I remember. And I didn't watch all of Chelsea's games that season, but it was a team that was underachieving from what I was seeing. He didn't want to be there, I don't think, as well in the long term, or he just didn't fit there. I don't know what he's been doing. Is he at Barcelona now, right? Is that right?
On loan at Barca, yeah. So I suppose as of the 30th of June, he's probably officially back at Madrid, I'd assume,
Yeah.
I always felt like Unai Emery wanted to bring him to the club, and there was a lot of rumours around which were fairly strong, strong rumours that Unai is interested in him. But from what I could see, it looked like Felix wasn't interested in coming to Villa at all, and maybe that's because of no Champions League football, and we only had like the Europa Conference League. I'm not 100% sure that Joao Felix is the type of player that we want at the club. I think he's a talented player, but I don't know if he's got that character and that personality that we need around the club at the moment to play for us. Don't even know if he wants to come to Villa. Not sure if he wants to turn up in Birmingham, go to the ball ring and all that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
If it was me personally, I would be looking at other players.
Yeah, that's fair. Rhino, do you want to deep a bit, dive further into what you reckon?
Yeah, I just think we've spoken about it before about players who, are moments players, but you've raised it on the podcast previously, and I think he's one of them. And at this point, I don't know if we're set up and suited to have a player like that who just has moments in games and drifts in and out. I think the way Unai Emery sets up and the players he's brought in, your Morgan Rogers, your Ollie Watkins, your JJs, John McGinns, they're all talented footballers, skillful, but they're all workhorses. And I just don't know. Look, I wouldn't turn my nose up to Joao Felix if he rocked up, complete trust in Unai Emery, but big wages and a moments player like that, I just don't know how that fits in our current squad and style of play. 24 years old. He's already been, obviously Benfica, Atletico Madrid, Chelsea, Barcelona. So he's, been on the hop a little bit as well. I don't know if I'm reading too much into that is, is his agent sort of shopping him round a bit and he's sort of getting unsettled. Do we need that kind of personality or that kind of drama in the dressing room? We're quite a harmonious dressing room for the first time in a long time. So I just worry that, the big wages that come with Joao Felix and the character might be a bit disruptive. And can we afford to carry a player like that who shines in moments? And he sort of showed that at Chelsea. Had some, showed some really nice glimpses of, the talent that he's got. But the Premier League's a different beast, La Liga and playing in Portugal. It's a lot more physical, and I don't think you can carry players like you can in other leagues, if that makes sense. So that's kind of why I'm on the fence. Look, if he rocks up, I'll get behind him like any player, and support him all the way.
Yeah, I remember him coming through at Benfica, and obviously in the Portuguese league, Benfica probably dominated 70-80% of the games they played in. And I remember looking at him, he was only 19 or whatever he was. And I was just thinking, this boy is unbelievable. His class. Now, you can see why he got the big move, but it was very expensive at the time, I think. Now, he was 100 million when there wasn't that many 100 million transfers out there. It's definitely not for a teenager either. I think he took the wrong move originally. I don't understand why he picked Atletico Madrid. Was that where the agent had talked him into the biggest fees? The style of player he was, going to play under Diego Simeone, who was very, very pragmatic manager, who very, very good manager, but they're everyone knows what Atletico Madrid do. They're pragmatic, they're tough, you know what I mean? They know what they are, and then they throw. You don't carry players, as you say right now, and I just think it was a bad fit from the start. So he probably never really settled and found a home in Atletico Madrid, and it's kind of like Mourinho with Eden Hazard. He was expecting to do things that weren't suited to his game, and he's kind of dwindled a little bit. And then he went to Chelsea, and look, he had moments at Atletico Madrid as well. I'm not saying, when you're that good, you're always going to have your moments, but for you to fit into a system wholeheartedly, he was getting left out. And it's unheard of 100 million players being left out, at that time anyway. It's probably not so rare now, and then he goes to Chelsea on loan. I don't ever know why Chelsea signed him, because they literally signed him for his name. Chelsea were in turmoil. Again, really bad move from Felix and his advisors, because it was probably the wrong place to go. Chelsea was upside down at the time. Frank Lampard is not going to get the best out of Joao Felix, if Diego Simeone can't. And they had what's the other guy's name? Bruno Salter. So you're not talking about established brilliant coaches here, apart from Simeone. So I think Chelsea was the wrong move for him again. Come back to your point, Ryan. I think it's a brilliant point. we're not good enough to carry players at the moment. Like we're just not. I think
Mm.
like. But Emery really seems to want him though. So like there must be something really attracting to him, and what it kind of reminds me of a little bit now, and like they obviously play slightly different positions, but they kind of seem like the similar characters to me. It's kind of like when Mesut Ozil signed for Arsenal, like where this guy is unbelievable, like, and these moments, like he's just unstoppable, and if Joao Felix signs for us, he's going to have these moments where we're just like, wow, what a player. But we don't need him for those moments. We don't need him for games where we're keeping the ball off of Ipswich for 70 minutes. We need players that are going to dig deep when we're 2-0 down at the Bernabeu and we need a point to get through to the knockout stages. And we're not going to see the ball, where we're Man City, where we're going to have to go on a Wednesday night and we scrape out a 1-0, or play brilliant and win, but work hard to get a 1-0 win against Villa Park, against top teams. They're just they're not the games he's going to turn up on, I don't think. And look, I might be wrong, but and look, you could argument and say, well, he's going to add something brilliant to the squad, and why can't he just go in and just do that against Ipswich? Who says he has to start against the Man City games? But a player like that, if he comes, he's going to expect to play every game. Like it's not like so there's a lot of risk with it, but. The other thing that's drawing me is like there's clearly a want from Unai Emery to sign him. Like it's been going on for quite some time now,
I'm wondering whether Unai Emery is thinking that it's a puzzle, and in this puzzle that he's got in our group at the moment, someone like Joao Felix will help to complete that puzzle in terms of our attacking game in the Premier League, but also hoping for a trophy this season in the League Cup or the FA Cup, or progression to the latter rounds of the Champions League, dare I say it. But we are there, so why not dream big? But maybe he thinks this player's got enough experience, he will just fit into this pocket within our group to help us to try and achieve our goals. But again, as I said, I'd imagine there are other players out there who might want to come to our club, and I just feel like the pursuit has been there for him before, and I don't know if he's wanted to come. He wanted to go to Barcelona, and of course, he want to go to the big teams or the big clubs there.
I totally agree, Tess. But I have to say, I'm not one of these guys who say when the mass do on Twitter that he didn't want to come here for us before. I would never take him for that reason, because we weren't able to sign players like that before. We weren't a Champions League team.
No, we weren't.
No, I'm not saying that to you, but I've seen people on Twitter saying, "Oh, no, he's not playing because he wouldn't come before." But that's irrelevant. He's big enough name to choose a Champions League club if he wants. In Barcelona was his dream. He's played there. So the only other thing I can think of is, with the Abbeys obviously moved on, right? You've got McGinn, Onana's coming, Barkley's coming. There's some really hard workers in the team. So maybe Emery is thinking we can carry a player now. Maybe we do need somebody that can just play that pass, who can release Ollie. And like you've got Onana, who's probably going to be better at the defensive side than Dougie was, but you probably could bring in Felix, who's probably a better passer than Dougie. So maybe there is a feeling that maybe it is time that we can start carrying players like that. But I just don't see it personally. But I'm not Unai Emery, so.
Would you want him to come in though? Would you like? Is it a player that you would like us to sign?
I think he's got all the talent in the world, but I'm with Rhino on this. I just don't. For me, right now, I don't see the personality fit. But there's definitely a player in there, and maybe it does just take an Unai Emery to show him some love and unlock that obvious player in there. But I don't. Can you ever unlock work rate though? Like I always think work rate is not every player has to have work rate, you know what I mean? But some players have it and some players don't. I don't think that's something you can completely instill. Some will argue and look at me and say, well, what about Bailey? He didn't work hard. But Bailey often did track back. He mightn't go full on into it. Like you can't see Felix running 20 yards back to back to make a tackle, But look, there's so many things about this team that I didn't think could happen, and they did happen. So maybe we are ready to carry a player, and someone that's going to be the difference in a tight game,
Yeah. Who else are we linked with?
The next one, right? The next one is, and this is one I really like. Just to answer your question, would I have him, Tess? He wouldn't be my first choice.
Yeah.
But As an Aston Villa fan, it's very hard for me to say I wouldn't take Joao
Hey,
Felix.
if you showed up at Bodywell Heath, not
It's,
saying no is all I'm saying. But
I know where we've come from, so it would be very hard for me
yeah,
to say. But the last word on it, boys, if you were given the option right now, let's not go deep into it. Right now, would you take him, Tess?
yes,
Right now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm guessing that's a yes, but wouldn't be your first choice. I'm sure we can work.
Yeah. Like you say, I wouldn't turn my nose up to him, but probably not my first choice.
Right, okay.
for
The next,
example, if we had a here we go, fair enough. I'd be like, yeah, cool.
yeah.
We've attracted that type
Look
of
at the
player,
players
and
that
I'd be
we're now
happy.
attracting. Yeah, like
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
The next one's really interesting for me, and this is probably one I wouldn't say I know who my first choice would be, but the interesting one for me is Julian Alvarez has apparently put in a transfer request to Man City. Can play as a 10, can play as a striker. Um, Bags of goals in him. You talk about work rate, you're going to get nothing but work rate from this lad. So Ryan, I'll start with you this time. What's your thoughts on Julian Alvarez?
Brilliant player. Done it at Man City, isn't he? Proved it in the Premier League already. Argentinian international, like you say, bags of goals in him. We've got the Argentinian connection there. Buendia, Martinez, Bernachea, bring him in. He'd be right at home with the boys. But
Bring him home.
yeah, he's another one. Just every time I've watched him in the Premier League, if you see Man City, obviously Haaland gets a lot of the plaudits, but Alvarez is a top finisher as well. And when he's been tasked with playing up front for Man City, he's getting goals as well. And you don't get in that team without being a decent striker. More game time, I reckon he'd flourish even more. And at Villa, I could just see a combination with him working with Ollie Watkins. The size, strength, and speed of Ollie Watkins and Alvarez sort of behind him, maybe in that 10 position, just floating out wide. I think he'd be a great fit. I can imagine there'd be a lot of interest in him, though. Given his, I think his star has risen, hasn't he, last season, playing for Argentina as well. Obviously, World Cup winners, a lot of exposure, Copa America winners. I would definitely take him. Brilliant player, very, very highly rate him.
Des?
Yeah, not even a question for me. Bring him into Bodywell Heath. Here we go.
Would he be ahead of Felix if you were offered at 2 a.m?
Oh, he'd be ahead of Felix, in my opinion. Yeah, no, I wouldn't even consider, like, if you gave me the two cards in front of me and said which one, I would point to Alvarez every single time. The only thing is, I'd be really excited about that signing. There are a lot of clubs out there who can't afford to bring him in, I don't think, in this kind of climate, in the financial climate. At the moment, you're looking at top clubs. So maybe looking at, the Bayern Munichs of this world, you're looking at the Real Madrids and the Barcelonas and the Atletico Madrids and the Paris Saint-Germains of this world, who would normally be the clubs that have the finances to kind of bring that kind of player in terms of what the transfer fee will be, agent fees, and then obviously player salary and stuff. And I can't see Barcelona. I don't know what the facts are about Barcelona, but I don't think they're in any green space at the moment to be spending big money on players.
They can't go in for everybody like they used to be able to. Like
No.
they might get one big signing this summer. Yeah, you're right though.
But if there are two underdog clubs who, when I say underdog clubs who potentially could afford it, I think Villa's one of them, and I think Newcastle are one of them as well, that could potentially afford to bring someone like Alvarez in, because I don't think Man City will loan him out to a Premier League club. They'll want a figure for him, and I think that figure will be quite high. The issue for Alvarez though is, look, Haaland's there, so he's not getting in ahead of Haaland, and he doesn't get to play every week. And some of these players don't want to just come and sit on the bench and not play and just contribute from time to time, or contribute in League Cup games or FA Cup games. They want to play week in, week out. And if I was Alvarez, I'd say, well, I've got all these players, as Rhino said, that are from my country, my compadres, my compatriots. Villa Park's an amazing stadium. The world's best goalkeeper's there. I want to go and play football every week there with Ollie Watkins.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah. I guess my point is that I would really like someone like Alvarez to come to our club, and I think he would fit the mold of what we've got at our club in terms of work rate, in terms of the way that his technical ability, all these sorts of things would fit perfectly with us. We could offer him Champions League football. He'll get game time. Really good coach, and we could probably. I'm saying this with probably, but I think we're a club that could afford to bring him in, depending on what the transfer fee would be.
yeah. No, I have to agree. And like at the moment, like the biggest links are to Paris Saint-Germain, because obviously they still haven't brought in their Kylian Mbappe replacement. So even though they didn't receive a fee for Mbappe, the money they're going to be available to them every week now for transfers. There's not that many class strikers that are out there that are available. We know he's not going to go to Madrid because, well, he'd have the same issue at Madrid, more of an issue at Madrid than he would have. The thing about Man City, though, is their players are gettable, because Man City do not hold on to players that don't want to be there. I think the only one that they've ever kind of really dug their teeth in over was Bernardo Silva. The rest, like Sterling went to Chelsea, Jesus and Zinchenko went to Arsenal. Like Pep always says that I don't want to keep players who don't want to be here. So I think if he puts in a request and he genuinely wants to leave, I think he's gettable. But can we get him as a thing? And I don't think a few years ago we could have even. We actually went in for him. When Man City signed him for 14 million, Villa bid.
That's right.
Yeah, and that was under
Yeah, I
Dean
remember
Smith,
that.
I think. And
Yeah.
I remember seeing in an interview Emmy Martin and said he spoke to him, but he said there was no convincing his heart was set on Man City. So there's links there. But I think we'd be negotiating from a place of strength at the moment. He'll see that the Abbey's gone out. We're Champions League. We're no mugs. We've up there with probably, in my opinion, the second best, if not joint second best coach in the league. I mean, you can't not say it's Pep, like what he's won, but and you have to give Arteta respect what he's done. But I think now the Klopp's gone, it's Arteta or Unai Emery. And you'd have to kind of give it to Unai Emery based on what he's won over the last 10 years, So we'll probably have the second best coach in the league at the moment, The thing for me though is that can we what might swing it for us is that the other clubs are kind of tied up. He's not going to go to Man United. I do feel like Arteta would probably have a look at him if there was any chances available, but maybe at this moment he's probably the one club Arsenal, probably Man City probably wouldn't want to sell that.
Yeah.
Jesus and Zinchenko didn't really come in and impact Arsenal. I suppose Pep probably knew that, and they've done okay, but they haven't been a monstrous revolution of the team. That team was moving this way anyway, But Alvarez would actually come in and elevate them, So I think he'd be a bit slow to sell him, but I think it's possible. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But with Emi Martinez is standing in Argentina and Unai Emery standing in European football, it's not impossible. I think we could be in the conversation.
Is it possible that though, because he's asked if he's asked for? Because I don't know it for a fact. If he's asked for a transfer, isn't it possible that the fee would be significantly reduced because he wouldn't be getting bonuses and all these things, and he's asked to leave the club?
Yeah, and very possibly, yeah, because once you put in a transfer request, your compensation for transfers is gone. You exclude all that, But because they only paid 14 million from River Plate, even if they get a 70 million from, that's a massive profit.
Yeah.
Books.
I think he would be like £50 million player.
Yeah, I think he's going to be up there, isn't he, price wise? And I think there'll be a lot of clubs in for him once he does put the request in. And like you say, Paris Saint-Germain would make sense, wouldn't it, with Mbappe going? A lot of the other top clubs have got their strikers, haven't they, at the moment? Those positions are sort of locked up, so that's probably the obvious choice. The other one I think that's been linked a lot is in the papers is Nico Williams. Obviously, the Spanish international has just ripped up the Euros. And that looks like Barcelona are going to edge in front there. But a player that I'm interested in at Barcelona that we've been linked to before if Nico Williams does go in is another Man City, or an ex-Man City player, Ferran Torres. He's another one that we've been linked to in the past, and I'm thinking, well, if Nico Williams ends up going to Barcelona, like he's, reported to, will we see, Ferran Torres? Because our transfer dealings are generally quite quiet, aren't they? Like Onana popped out of nowhere. I'm wondering if it's going to be someone like that. We've had an interest in him before. He's played in the Premier League before. I really rate him. Brilliant finisher. Can probably play in a couple of different positions for us as well. And just, I'm interested to see how that pans out, because Barcelona, like we know, are a little bit tight for cash. And Nico Williams is obviously going to command a fair bit of money and wages as he goes in. And in previous seasons, that's meant Barcelona have had to sell a few players or put them on. What have they done with players? They've sort of put them on hold, haven't they? Haven't been able to start players. I think like Jules Koundé couldn't start league games for a while because they didn't have permission to play.
Gundogan couldn't start straight away till a certain date.
Yeah,
he actually had it in his contract when he signed for Barcelona that if La Liga didn't approve his registration by a certain date, he was free to leave Barca again before he'd even played for them.
Yeah, and there was rumours. I don't know if you. Oh, sorry, yeah, there's rumours on Twitter through the week that Monchi was in Barcelona. A few Aston Villa representatives, some sort of few whispers. That sort of got me thinking, and I thought, well, out of the players who were there, I know we've been looking at Ferran Torres in the past. What do you boys think? Would you take him? What's your thoughts on him?
I like Ferran Torres, but I think he's a bit lightweight for the Premier League. To be honest, I don't think he's physical enough. He might be wrong, but I think he's a nice, flashy, touchy player. But I think he hasn't grown in stature since he was at Man City. And yes, he'll definitely get a few goals, but he'll get kicked around the park again. And then he's not for me. I've watched him at Barcelona, and I said he's a tidy player. But even in a team that's ball dominant like Barcelona, he comes in and out of the games. Like, he's nippy. He's definitely a good player, but I just don't think he's what Villa need personally. But I just don't think he's Premier League ready, because solely based on the physicality. I just think he'll just get kicked out of games. That's just me. I could be completely wrong, but like if you look at like the difference in stature between, like, say, himself and Morgan Rogers, like they're very different players. Not everyone has to be big and strong, but he looks very, very lightweight. Like, It's not for me. I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't take him over Felix or Julian Alvarez. No way. Now his teammate Rafinha, maybe that's a different story for me, to be honest. I think. But before we talk about Rafinha, Tess, what about yourself and Ferran Torres? Is he somebody you would like to?
No, it's not a player that I didn't rate him when he was at Man City either. To be honest, I didn't. He's not the kind of player that I think will actually suit our profile at the moment as well. In agreement with you, Spud. I think there are other targets that we need in order to strengthen, and without sounding disrespectful, bringing someone like Torres in would be like, you couldn't get that player or that player or that player, so you're going to kind of bring him in. Yeah. And I don't know if that's the kind of move that I would.
So you're saying if we see that, it could be the last week of the window type thing, just to make sure we've got somebody.
It will be a deadline day drama.
Sloppy seconds,
or thirds or fourths, something like that. But as you said, Rafinha is a player that's been and done it in the Premier League, hasn't he?
Yes. Tell us about Rafinha, Tess. What would your thoughts on him be?
Oh, I thought he was a fantastic player when he was at Leeds. I never heard of him before he got to Leeds, and when I seen him playing for Leeds, and Leeds were playing a different type of football, they were. It was under Marco. Is it Bielsa? Bielsa.
Yeah, it's Bielsa. Yep.
Bielsa ball. Which I wasn't like. They used to be exciting in some stages, but defensively, sometimes they were just a nightmare, to watch. But attacking wise, when they had people like Rafinha. Harrison was one of them as well. I think was in the squad there as well, and he just looked like he's supposed to be at a very big football club. I was surprised Leeds had a player like Rafinha, to be honest. And when I saw that he was going to go to Barcelona, I was like, yeah, that's probably the right type of move for someone like him. Was he went to Barcelona? Or
Yeah, Barcelona, yeah.
Barcelona, yeah. I thought that was the right type of move for someone like him. I don't know what his game time has been like in Barcelona.
Not bad. No, it's decent. Yeah, I wouldn't say he's playing week in, week out, but he's more than like he's more than impacted the team. Like he's definitely part of their plan. Like he's been part of their squad. It's not like he's just coming on the last 10 minutes. Like he's had influence in games. Like,
well, I thought that when I'd seen him play, he had kind of influence around other players as well, and he was a hard worker as well. You could see that he would work hard for the team too, and that kind of fits the profile more than maybe a Ferran Torres.
Strong ball carrier as well. I don't think he'd be kicked off the ball too easy, you know.
Yeah, strong. Brazilian, yeah? He's a Brazilian boy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think right now?
Good.
Yeah, he's like you boys have touched on. He's done it in the Premier League before, and not in no disrespect to Leeds, but not in a great Leeds team. But he not a lot of talent around him, just a lot of hard workers around him. But he was superb at Leeds, and linked to a lot of clubs in the Premier League before he ended up at Barcelona as well. Definitely a player, like you say, I think could come back in, settle straight back into the league, which I think is important. I think the players we have signed, there's a couple have come back who've already got experience in the league to hit the ground running. I think that's important. I think Rafinha would fit that bill. Like you say, he's played at Barcelona, Brazilian international, so he's quality. I'd take him for sure.
The problem with someone like Rafinha, though, is, and being at Barcelona, they're a club that put billion pound, fees on them to say like he can't release clauses, £1 billion release clauses on players and stuff, which is kind of ridiculous in a way, because it's kind of like, well, they're telling the player that you can't go anywhere unless somebody comes and gives us £1 billion, and it tells other clubs you can't come and get our player unless you give us £1 billion. So one of those kind of deals for someone like him would be really, really difficult to achieve.
What's his best position though, lads? Like for Rafinha, like for Leeds, I seem to remember him drifting out wide a fair bit. Can he play a bit more centrally, or what's his go?
See, that's why I wonder about him signing, because like I haven't watched him week in and week out of Barca either. Like I've watched a bit of him, but he's obviously seems to play in the right for Barcelona. And when I remember him at Leeds, he was played a lot in the right as well. I don't remember him. That's why I'm not too sure if he's what we're going to be looking at, because I don't ever remember him coming in playing in that 10 role or like definitely not up top, Yes, it's tricky. I don't know. I don't see it. Emery seems to like at the moment to be signing players who are able to play a couple of positions, and maybe he can. Like who am I to say he can't play number 10? But I think his best attribute is getting the ball, driving onto the line, and cutting balls back and stuff. So, would you take him over Julian Alvarez?
Alvarez for me.
Would you take him over Ferran Torres?
Yes. I just realised then I was just nodding and like shaking my head. So the answer to, because we've got to remember that we've got the audio listeners as well. So the question was, would we take Rafinha over Torres?
Ferran Torres, yeah.
Yes.
I'm taking Torres.
I'm taking Rafinha over Torres.
Just because, like you say, every time I've seen Rafinha, he's more of that wide player, and I think with Torres, he'd probably play a little bit more centrally, which I think we probably need a little bit more at this point.
Yeah. And then you said, what was the next one? It was
would you take him over Julian Alvarez? Would you take Rafinha over Julian Alvarez?
No. So Alvarez over Rafinha.
Okay.
Alvarez, yep.
Okay, and would you take Rafinha over Joao Felix?
Yes.
I'm taking Joao Felix just for the wild card, just to keep it interesting.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, listeners.
If you could answer before next week's episode, that'd be good.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking. Oh my goodness! I've always got this issue, haven't I? I would take Rafinha over Felix.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That based on work rate mostly.
It's based on work rate and what I've seen him do in the Premier League, and I've seen Felix in the Premier League, and I don't think he adjusted to the Premier League like Rafinha did, even though Rafinha was playing in, a fairly poor team, to be honest.
I think we can kind of say so of all the players we spoke about before. Like as a as a preference, Julian Alvarez is probably fairly far out in front of them all, is he? From a preference point of view.
Yeah.
Now the next player. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was going to say you didn't say Nico Williams.
Yeah, well, I was going to speak about Nico Williams next.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Jump the gun.
Obviously, the links to Nico Williams are we know they've been there. They've been there from last year. We know this fact. Like we met his release clause last year. He turned us down. He signed a year's extension at Bilbao. Kept the release clause in his contract. We know that he was Emery's first choice ahead of Diaby. I think that's well documented at this stage. Tess, can it happen? Would it happen? Would you want it to happen?
Yes, 100% would love to see Nico Williams come to Aston Villa. Will it happen? I'm just not seeing it now at the moment. And this is all based on stuff that's happened before, because we already know, and it's well documented, that Unai Monchinos have been trying to get him to the club, and he didn't want to go. He then signed a contract extension at Atletico, and then it looks as though Barcelona were interested. I don't know why Barcelona keep coming up, and they've got no moolah.
I know why, because
I don't even know if he wants to leave Spain.
Sorry, Tess, the one thing I have to say there just before we move on to that point, though, Barcelona have to do something, because look at the players Madrid are signing. If they don't do something now, they're going to fall miles behind. Madrid are just, they have to do something. Like, their fans will demand to do something, because, like,
they do.
Look at that Madrid front three now of Vinicius Junior, Mbappe, Rodriguez, Bellingham behind them. Chouameni, Camavinga. It's just they have to. They're being backed into a corner where I think that they could possibly put the club's financial health at risk again, because they may not have a few like that. That Madrid team could dominate for years if Barcelona don't react pretty soon. Like, sorry, Tess, I didn't mean to drop, but
you've got a really serious point there. But the problem for Barcelona is that how do they do that without getting into some sort of strife? Like, it's.
I read a thing recently there, Tess. Just not to cut around to the point, but they apparently, let's say if they take the selling of other players, because we don't know the ins and outs of that, but apparently they have to get it approved by La Liga first before they can officially sign Nico Williams anyway. So their finances are not like they're in a mess, like, so there's no guarantees he can end up there either, I suppose. But sorry, Tess, go on, and I have to get
sorry, and that's what's really good about our podcast, is that we just like to have conversations about a bunch of stuff that might affect the club or not. With Nico Williams, I would really, really, really like to see him come to our club. I think it will be perfect for him at Aston Villa as a club to come into. I think working under Unai Emery for him would. He's got a good game as it is. I mean, you all saw it in the Euros, right? But when players play for Unai Emery, they all improve. Like, I can't think of anyone who regressed under Unai Emery so far. Let's change that. There is one player who's possibly regressed a little bit as to why they might not be staying at the club after one season. But I think Nico Williams' game would improve. I just don't think he wants to leave Spain, to be honest with you. I genuinely think that he wants to just stay in Spain. I don't think he wants to upend and come to England. I think he's probably got his family are out there. He's got a really nice lifestyle out there. The weather and all these sorts of things are a lot better than it is in England. And I just don't see him wanting to come to Birmingham to play football in the Premier League at the moment. Maybe in a couple of years' time, but not now.
That's fair. Right now? No, it's a good point, Des.
Yeah, obviously would love to see him at the club, but I think his form at the Euros has probably blown us out the water, to be honest with you. We obviously went in for him last last summer, and that was probably our chance to get him. Having a tournament like he did at the Euros, probably the best player at the tournament. That makes it very hard then, doesn't it? And Barcelona are obviously going to go in hard for him. And I think you've hit the nail on the head, Spud. I think with Real Madrid, strengthening like they have, Barcelona are going to go all out for him. And I just can't see us being able to compete with Barcelona at this stage. Like you say, he probably wants to stay in Spain, probably suits him. Would love it to happen, but just can't see it happening. I just think, his Euros was too good, and just that shot window. It's a shame he didn't pick up a little niggle before the Euros and we sneak in and get him. But yeah, he had a great tournament.
How much would you value Nico Williams at, though, Spud?
Like, what is his release clause, or what do you think he's worth?
Yeah, what do you think he's worth? Like, is he like in the DRB type money, or?
Oh, I think after what he did at the Euros, he's probably beyond that a little bit. No, I think, yeah. Like, I think his release clause 65 million euros, is it? Is that what it was? It was 50. It was 50, and now it's gone up to 65 and along the, it's not huge. There's definitely a release clause there.
£50 million, £60 million, is it?
So his wages though are obviously going to be big. What I think about Barcelona though is, like, because we know obviously Madrid are like so well run these days that they can pretty much go in from any player that comes available. They've just, now that they have their stadium built and stuff, like, they're just so well run. But like, Barcelona are looking at them and saying, well, we can't match them for star power, buying the best of the best every time. But what we can do is try and match them by having the best young players, and maybe we can grow like that. So they obviously have Yamal, right? Yeah. They obviously have Xavi and Pedri and ocean of other young lads coming through. So, and then they're looking at Nico Williams, who's still 21, and yes, they're going to have to probably pay big for him, but they probably can't pass up a chance to have probably one of the top 3 young players in the world at the moment. I think that opportunity, and they'll look and think, can we close the gap that way? Because can we give up 2 seasons to Madrid as opposed to 10 seasons? You know what I mean? And let this team grow together, and then without it costing an absolute bucket. Because if they didn't get Williams and they had to try and buy the players to try and close that gap, I just don't think they'd financially be able to do it. So I think they'll probably have to put their eggs in one basket now. Buy the best young lad that's out there and just hope they can build a team. And I think Yamal and Nico Williams have shown that they can play together either wing. Like, it's a frightening prospect. And Pedri in midfield, you get your striker right up front. You could close that gap relatively, and there's always the risk as well that Madrid will get overrun with egos if Ancelotti's to walk away, because they're all going to want to be the best player, Mbappe and Vinicius Jr., Bellingham, so I think that's what Barcelona will be looking at. But the other thing is, like, they can look at that all they want, but if La Liga aren't going to let him sign these players, then that brings us to Villa. Now, I would have thought obviously Man City, that's, a player like that you'd think would have Man City written all over it, but they've got Jeremy Doku, they've just signed that Savinho, the winger, who's obviously very similar to Nico Williams, so I don't see that happening. Chelsea, who knows what Chelsea are at? Like, I mean, obviously Chelsea can go in for these players, but can't offer them Champions League. So, like, let's take away the Barcelona link for a minute, right? Do you think is realistic? Let's say La Liga say no, Barca can't sign him. Do you think we have a realistic chance of getting him then?
I think so. I think you can't underestimate the pull of Unai Emery, can you, as a manager? I think, what he's done in the game, proven track record, what he's done with Villa so far, got us to Champions League, the ambitions of the owners. I think we're a club that's definitely on the upward trajectory, and it's a good sell at the moment, isn't it? Everything's going for us. We're bringing in young players, spending a lot of money. It's a project that's, a lot of clubs are envious of. We are the talk of social media, and, every other fan and club is talking about us. How can we afford to be doing this and that? But
it's mad, isn't it?
It's nice. It's nice to have the shoe on the other foot for once, isn't it? And I actually think, again, players like Nico Williams, same as like we spoke about with Alvarez, there's probably limited spots and clubs that can probably afford or have that level that they'd want to go to. And I think Champions League football for our club is massive, and that's it's a big draw card for players coming in. Everyone wants to play Champions League football, but again, like you say, the owners, Unai Emery, the facilities, the way the club's being run now, and I'm sure we'll touch on it later with the social media stuff, the kit launch stuff. The club is just moving forward, isn't it, at a rate of knots now? And you look back, 2-3 seasons ago, I would have laughed at you if you'd have said we'd be, linked with some of these players or, with the way we're going. But it's moving very quick. So I wouldn't be surprised if Barcelona couldn't get it done and we were to go in. I wouldn't be surprised to see him here because Unai Emery obviously likes him and has been into him before. And I reckon he'd be able to persuade him.
Yeah, I like that right now. What about you, Tess?
Yeah, I think we would. I think it's possible for us. I think we would need to sell someone to help with the funding. I think we've got, I know that DRB is on his way out, if that's the case, and the money being talked about is about £50 million. But then, if we can get rid of, I hate to say the word get rid of, but if we can let another player move on, i.e. John Duran, because that's gone really quiet at the moment, hasn't it? There was a lot of talk early on in the transfer window about John Duran moving, and at the moment it's gone really, really quiet. And my understanding from reading from reputable journalists is that Villa are holding fast on the amount of money that they want for John Duran. They're not willing to just let him go for peanuts. They want a specific amount. Yeah, and we're in and I think we're a club that never used to do that before. We used to be able to. Teams used to come and say, "Oh, well, we'll give you this much for him," and we would sell players. We're not in that position anymore. We're holding the cards and we'll deal the cards as well. So I think if we were to make sell another player other than DRB, I think financially we could go in with a really strong case for Nico Williams to bring him to Villa Park. And I think that's something we should do. Of
course, there's also the Basque connection. Obviously, Nico Williams is playing at Atletico Bilbao, who we know they only sign players that are from the Basque region. So Unai Emery is obviously, so there's a bit of a connection there. Unai Emery is so well respected in Spain too, so there definitely obviously is a draw there. The other thing I kind of think of as well, and Nico Williams grew up in Ghana, as a young lad. I think he was there till he was 10 or 11, was it? The Premier League is huge in Africa. It is massive. It's not La Liga they're into, it's the Premier League. They're all big Arsenal fans, Chelsea fans. So there could be a big draw for him to play in the Premier League, That's why he would have grown up.
Big shout out to AVFC Ghana.
Yeah, 100%. It's big, they love it, the Premier League. It's huge there. It's like Asia, it's the Africa and Asia, the Premier League is huge. La Liga is huge in South America, So it's and the Portuguese league and La Liga, the two of them are huge over in South America. So who's to say he hasn't, we know he didn't grow up dreaming of playing for Villa, right? But who's not to say he didn't want to grow up dreaming of playing in the Premier League, and he's only 21, that wouldn't have been that long ago that he would have been thinking about this. So maybe there is a pull. I think the Barcelona links make the most sense for him. It's remaining in Catalonia. It's he's a national team, he's going to go and instantly be a superstar at the club, but maybe it's possible. I think if Barcelona were to get written out of it in the morning, because I think there's no point in fooling ourselves. We know Barcelona are the front runners without doubt. It's just their links are just too strong there. But let's say if that opportunity is taken away, then I think our opportunity to go up would go up massively, But I don't know. Maybe it's just my time.
We could offer the package. We can offer the package. I just don't know whether he, the player, wants to.
Yeah,
I don't know this for a fact, but I have a feeling this player doesn't want to leave Spain at the moment.
And yeah, you just kind of wonder Yeah, maybe it's just us being not used to being able to sign big players. Because I said the same. I said the same about Kamara at the time. I didn't think we'd get him. I genuinely didn't, and that wasn't even Unai Emery. That was Steven Gerrard.
Gerrard.
And that was the club themselves. But so look, we're a different club now, and maybe we're finding that hard to accept. The other thing, just before we move on to the next line, I wanted to say, do you think it's interesting, like that we signed a load of 6-footers, then we sold the Abbey? Do you think there's a correlation there?
Mm-hmm. I think,
Yeah, definitely a profile, isn't there, that we've been
yeah,
aiming for, and and it is something we've lacked for a long time, though. I feel like I think Onana coming in for me, we were talking about it in the week. We've lacked that real big physical presence in midfield for a long, long time, haven't we? Like George Boateng, I can remember years back. Um, just a real physical dominating presence in there. And, I just think that with the way the league is now and the way the competition's going, I think you need those physical players in there. You need to have, they obviously need to be able to play as well. There's a fine balance, isn't it, between being a physical team and playing good football. But I'm sure, the players Unai Emery signed, he's gone for a bit of both. But I don't think it's any coincidence that we are signing 6 foot plus players and adding a bit of size to the team, because before that we had Tyrone Mings, obviously didn't play any games last season, or played one game last season, and then Carlos at the back. But other than that, the size of the team is not, we're quite a small profile of a team, and I think that probably goes against you against some teams, doesn't it? You need that physical presence in it. So I'm really excited to see how we sort of line up and the shape we sort of go with now with some of these new players coming in. I am really excited about Onana. I think 22 years old, sky's the limit for him, and we've sort of likened him to Patrick Vieira in our chats, which is obviously big shoes to fill, or big
No pressure
to follow. But yeah, no pressure. But I think it's something we've badly been missing. And, last year, Douglas Luiz did a fantastic job. Kamara went out, who was sort of the protector in there. But neither of those are big midfielders. They played a lot of minutes. But I think you do need a bit of that physicality in the league. And I think it's going to serve us well going forward.
So that kind of brings me nicely on to our last guy. So before we do move on, so are we saying Nicky Williams overall? Is that first choice there at the moment?
Yeah.
Yes, Nico Williams, Alvarez. Bucket list. One.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Sign them all. Okay. No, the last one we're going to talk about here, lads, is personally for me, he would be the one I would sign. For quite a few reasons. So the next one we're linked to is Ebere Eze. I'm going to talk about him myself to start off with for a minute. Rumours has he has a release clause, but that's unconfirmed. We know Michael Elise had, but the rumours are that Eze does as well, and that was just kind of brought out about with the links to Man City last summer and stuff. We're talking about the height in the team. He's a big boy that can carry the ball. There's no fear of him being kicked out of the game. The fact he's at Crystal Palace, no disrespect to Crystal Palace, he is gettable for Villa. He's Premier League ready. I don't think you're going to pay anywhere near the wages for him that you are a Julian Alvarez or Nico Williams or any of the names we named really so far. I think that's no disrespect to Eze. I suppose if enough clubs come in, then he'll have a bit more of a bargaining tool. But I just think that you will get him for a more respectable price than the others. And I just think he'd fit in so well at the team. He could play that right. He could play that 10. The only thing I would probably give Alvarez an advantage over there is that if Watkins got injured in the morning, Alvarez could also play as that striker. And that's probably the one thing he has that none of the rest of them have. Whether that's going to come into it. But Nico Williams, obviously the dream signing, I don't think it's going to happen personally. So out of them all, if I was to choose right now, it would probably be Eze for me. So yeah, pass over to you right now. What do you think of Eze?
Yeah, he hasn't really crossed my mind, to be honest with you, but he's a hell of a player, and he's done really well at Crystal Palace, and they had a really good end of the season, didn't they, when the new manager took over. I think he'll be interested to see how Palace start off this season. But yeah, Eze's in the England squad now as well, so his stock is rising. But I think, the fact that he's played Premier League football, did he start at was he QPR then Palace?
QPR, yeah, QPR.
Yeah, so he's played in the Championship, played Premier League, so He knows about the physicality. He knows the speed of the game. There's no time to bed in. He'll just get straight in. I do worry that if Ollie Watkins goes down in our current state, how do we look? Obviously, looking at like Duran's going to leave, how that looks for us. A second striker for me, or someone who can fill maybe two positions like Julian Alvarez could, is probably what I'd be leaning towards. But yeah, Eze's a fantastic player and would probably suit our dressing room and probably the players that we've got in the squad currently. He probably knows a lot of the guys there, doesn't he? Your Morgan Rogers, your JJs, all those guys who've been around the England setups through the ages. So I think he would fit in with the group really well. But I would prefer someone, for me, in that Alvarez mould who could fill in as a striker if we did lose Watkins for any period of time through the season. I think we're exposed in that position at the moment. I think it's one position that very hard to recruit for, and I think you got to be smart about it. Like maybe that is the way to go, is someone who can play 10 or a striker, because Ollie Watkins you'd think is going to get the majority of the minutes. But I'm sorry, getting off track. Eze, yes, for me, he's a brilliant player.
No, you're not getting off track because it is relevant to what we're talking about. It is.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really rate him, and I've actually really enjoyed watching Crystal Palace last year. They've got some fantastic players. I know Michael Olise's moved on. Eze, Decore, the guy in the middle, sensational players, and they've recruited really well. Crystal Palace, they're a great model for teams that are in that, middle of the Premier League, and taking players from, Reading, QPR, and from other leagues, and unearthing these gems. So yeah,
they had a bid for Ismail Assar accepted from Marseille this morning as well. So remember Ismail Assar that we were linked there loads of times for what they was playing Watford. He went to Marseille, I think it was Marseille, but I think Palace had a bid accepted from him this morning. So I think that's probably more a reaction to Elise going to Bayern than getting prepared for Eze leaving, you'd imagine.
You talk about players. He's been linked with Man City as well. I've seen the papers, Eze, but again, I can see the draw. Obviously, contenders for Premier League, Champions League, club like Man City, very successful. But game time's limited. We've seen with Jack Grealish, haven't we, moving to Man City, that it's
a bad move for him.
There's no guarantees, is there, of first team football there? And I think there's no guarantees first team football at any club. But I think at Villa, I think you'd say that Eze is going to start a lot more games than that he's not. You know what I mean? Yeah. So again, I think that probably puts us in a good position. A guy at his age, or is he 24 in the England setup? He needs to be playing games. Grealish didn't make it to the Euros. The lack of game time kills you, doesn't it? So I would love, a player like Eze. Plenty of room to grow and plenty of room to improve under Emery, so I'd take him for sure.
Tess?
Good player, Eze. Really is a really, really good player. I really like watching him. I love the way that he kind of is a big unit too, right? I love the way that when he's got the ball at his feet, he can glide with that ball. Watching him is just, it's like poetry sometimes. Just watching him, and just imagine you put him in a because Crystal Palace weren't doing particularly well until their new manager came in, let's be honest. The new manager came in and found a way for all those players that they had, Mateta, Elise, Eze,
Adam Wharton,
Wharton. Wharton, and then you had the defenders. Is it Anderson?
Yeah, Joaquin Anderson. Yeah. And Mark Gahey.
Mark Gahey, and he got all these players playing in a certain style for the last how many games? Like 8 to 5 games or whatever it was, and they were dealing with teams really, really well. I know it was towards the end of the season, but they had a long season too, and they were able to really play in a different style with energy, with confidence, and I don't think the 5-0 against us at the end of the season is a reflection on us as such. I think we were done. We were just we're in Champions League. We've done what we're supposed to do. We just don't want to get injured before the Euros, and we don't want to get injured before Copa America, all these sorts of things.
Yeah, 100%. The league was done then, yeah.
But what we did see is players like Elise and Eze and Wharton and Mateta shining because they were signed originally as like good players or good potential players, and what their manager did was able to bring that out in them. I would love to see someone like Eze in our club. I think he's a good character. Otherwise, he wouldn't be playing for England, because Gareth Southgate likes players who have got good character about them. Good, strong team player. Works hard. Tall. Strong.
Carries the ball.
Carries the ball. He could do... In fairness, if we're talking about tall and strong, we've got, Rodgers, who's tall, strong. He can also carry the ball. All these different things. But I think Eze's a little bit more dynamic in his movement than what we have currently.
He's like a physical version of Diaby. Like they have a lot of similar attributes.
Not the pace though. I don't think he has the pace like. Because
he's quite quick as it's hard to say he's as quick as Diaby, but he's quite quick. Like he's
I don't think he's
fast.
a slow player, but when you see. Whenever I see him playing, it's not like he's busting the gut to run, like because whenever he's
big strides, though, doesn't it?
It's just striding. You know what I mean? Like, whereas you see Diaby and you're thinking, "Wow, this player's like rapid,
yeah." But his movements, though, as his movements of carrying the ball and cutting inside and cutting past people, like they carry quite a few similar attributes. I think personally, like just these.
I think Eze's probably got better technical ability than Diaby.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Do you know things like striking the ball and all that kind of stuff? Because when you see, apart from I know Diaby scored some goals, but like when he would assist, sometimes that final ball for the assist looked like an uncomfortable pass sometimes for Diaby. Whereas you look at some of these passes, they're measured from Eze, they're measured passes, they're measured crosses.
Yeah,
executed.
They came down to a confidence though, because if you remember the start of the season, the amount of balls that Diaby was setting Watkins up for when he was confident and fit and firing, they just looked like such a good partnership. And I was like, this Emery's a genius, turning him from a winger straight into a number 10, or a second striker, almost kind of hybrid kind of. But yeah, I don't know. I just think, and you made a really good point there, Tess, and it's probably one of the draws for me as well, is that Eze just showed when Olivier Glasner took over from Roy Hodgson and just implemented a completely different style. He just adapted, so he's obviously tactically adaptable as well. So so obviously Emery looks at that too. But I do take the point on board though about someone who's going to replace, but someone that can replace Watkins and play that 10 role, and it does probably make the most sense out of all the attributes carried. I think Julian Alvarez probably makes the most sense. But just going off preseason, and Morgan Rodgers seems to be playing further forward at a lot of the times. Do you think he's been groomed to play that Watkins role as a backup? Because he carries a lot of the physical attributes that Watkins does. He has a lot of the movement traits. Probably not as quick, but can carry the ball like Watkins. And then score goals.
If you squint your eyes when you're watching Villa in pre-season, he does look like Watkins a little bit. Like he's got that physical, you know what I mean? The size and the stature. And he's definitely, I've only seen little clips of the pre-season, but he seems to be playing a lot more central, and he's full of confidence, isn't he? He's getting some goals. And
he's been the best player of those two games, by a distance.
Yeah. 100%. And
levels.
So from what I was sort of keeping an eye on him a little bit at Middlesbrough. He did play up front a little bit for Middlesbrough, not all the time, but there was games where he would go in there if they needed to. So he's definitely a player who could fill that void. Just a little bit untested at this level, I guess, isn't he? If he was going to be leading the line for us, if Watkins did go out. But I'm loving what I'm seeing of him so far pre-season. Physical, strong. He looks like he's had a good summer. I think he's going to be an important player for us going forward. And there's going to be a few players in the squad sort of looking at him. He's going to keep players out of the team, isn't he? And his best asset for me is his ability to play in a number of positions, and just gives us that flexibility, doesn't it, to bring other players in, and he can drift out to the left or play behind Watkins. And I think maybe he is being groomed for that number 10 role. I can't see why they would be playing him so central this early on if they weren't.
Yeah, because just with the size stature offers and stuff, if Watkins was to go down and you did have to put Morgan Rogers in there for 2 or 3 games, like, yeah, I think he could do a job up there. Like, so if you
Yeah.
were to bring in an Eze, I don't think it's a permanent answer, but Watkins, I don't think you need a long-term answer for Watkins because, look, I know he could go down any injury in the morning, but he is durable. Like, he doesn't miss many games.
Yeah.
So you just need someone that can come in and fit. I say that now, we live in ACL injury first game, but like he is someone that sorry. He is someone that can
Pray,
come in.
fellas, pray to God.
Just for the listeners, you're holding up your Paul McGrath. What is it?
My coaster, yeah.
Your coaster.
Yeah. So look, I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I think Eze does make a lot of sense for me. So obviously Nico Williams is still our front runner, or
Alvarez, Williams, and then Eze for me.
So Alvarez will be your first choice.
So you go Eze over Felix? Is that what you're saying right now?
I would at the moment, just because of what we touched on earlier with his experience being in the league, and just I think that's invaluable. I just think he's not a moments player, Eze. He's someone who will
impact the game.
Have he will dictate the pace of a game and be a focal point of the team and be able to, dictate the passing and how we sort of move forward. And I just think that would be, something we'd need going forward. And I don't think Joao Felix would give us there. So yeah, I'm going to go Alvarez, Williams, Eze.
It is a scary prospect, isn't it?
Though, isn't he?
Is it?
Isn't he?
Yeah, I thought he had quite an injury record because the lack of time that Elise and Eze had spent on the pitch together. But it's actually heavily weighted in Elise's favour of games missed. Eze did do his Achilles years ago, but he hasn't missed a whole pile of games since. So I thought the same because
I wondered.
Because I think Hodgson was only able to get him on the pitch 8 times together or something, and I was like, "Oh, that's a red flag." But it was actually a lot more because of Elise than Eze. But he has had injuries, but not for quite some time. Nothing big, anyways.
Were they like big injuries or were they Hodgson injuries? And I'm holding my fingers up here.
I think he might have missed. He might have missed like one with I think Eze, like he had a thigh strain which kept him up for 6 games. He done his Achilles back in 2020, right? That was quite serious, but yeah, he hasn't missed an awful lot of football. But I was the same as you, Tess. I actually looked it up, his injury record, because I thought I had this thing in my head that he was missing a lot of games, but no, it was weighted more towards Elise than.
So who's your top 3? Sorry, Spud. Who are you going for? Well, Rado did his. You got to do yours.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think.
Just so you know, we're gonna replay this again straight after the transfer window closes.
Alvarez, Eze, Nico Williams. And I'll tell you why I do that. Why I picked Alvarez, because I think, as we've discussed, he can cover 2 positions. Yeah. Now, obviously, it's very tough to pick Eze ahead of Nico Williams, but I think it's such an important season for us. I would like someone I know that's just going to hit the ground running straight away and doesn't need a season bedding in. And I think with Eze, you're going to get that straight away because he knows the league inside out. You never know how players are going to adjust. There's no doubt Nico Williams is going to come in and be brilliant at some point, but he may not get up to speed straight away, the physicality of the league, and much the same as Diaby, even though I do think he's obviously more talented than Diaby, but so Julian Alvarez, then Eze, and then Nico Williams will be my front 3.
I'm going to agree with both of you on that too. They would be my 3 if I'm going to pick. But they're going to be my 3. I'm going to stop there because
you have to put them in an order.
You're going to pick an order.
You can't put me under pressure like that and then take 3 yourself.
Have I got to do an order? Have I?
Yeah.
Okay, my order would be Nico Williams, Alvarez, Eze.
Nice.
That's my
I
order.
like it. Yeah.
But Nico Williams, based on what I've seen from him, would, even if Ollie was to get an injury, for example, Nico Williams is fire. Like he's unbelievable. Like when I watched him, and I watched some highlights of him, he's an unbelievable. And if Ollie's not playing there, he has the ability to play and to assist and score goals, but assisting those types of players that will be just hanging around in the box. And now you're talking about Cameron Archers of this world and all these sorts of things, who Nico Williams, the way that he plays, could help players like Cameron Archer, who aren't really good from coming outside the box, in my opinion, but around and in the box could be potentially really, really dangerous. And I think Nico Williams could be that explosive in our team. Although Alvarez can do a bit of both. Like, so if Ollie did get injured, he could still play that position, or he can play with him and all these sorts of things. But yeah, I think I have to go that order because I pictured it in my mind that if this Nico Williams thing was real and it happened, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like I would be like a cartoon character. My head would be going choo choo.
I think
coming out my ears.
There's absolutely no doubting. I think all three of us would agree. Like Nico Williams is the most talented out of them all. The names that we've mentioned, like you know what I mean. There's no doubt about that. He is the best footballer out of them all. And probably has the highest ceiling as well. Like, you know, and he's only going to get better because he's only 21. Yeah, but like there's no doubt in that. But for me, I'm just looking at this season, and I'd hate to see us having to spend another 60 or 70 million on a player that doesn't hit the ground running, you know. I just don't think we can do that. This season is so important for us. We need to get Champions League again. We need someone that's going to come in and settle in the Premier League straight away. And that's just why, for me, Eze or Alvarez would share it. And I'd go Alvarez just because he can play the other two positions, you know. But the one thing I will say though, from a physicality and speed running point of view, imagine the scary prospect of being able to line up with Ollie Watkins up top, Bailey on the right, Rodgers on the left, and Eze in the middle. It's a scary. You know what I mean? With Onana and Kamara behind at some point, you know, like, or McGinn and Onana, you know.
You know, you guys haven't even mentioned Baranachea yet, and Baranachea, like, he looks like a tiny player. Like, I don't think he's just going to be coming to sit on the bench. He's a big lad as well. He looks like he's coming to compete for places and play matches.
I think it'll take him a while to get introduced, though, Tess, will it? Like,
it might take him a little while, but I think I think he's coming. I think he's a player that will come and can help the team. I think he's not going to spend the season sitting on the bench. I think there's potential for him to come in and actually really help the team
and give players rests, which is important, and that's huge.
We're going to need that. We're going to need that.
We couldn't do it last year. We just got, and it cost us dearly. And I won't say it cost us dearly because we got Champions League, but it cost us a cup, I would say, in the end, or like the Euro Conference League in the end. Well, before we move on,
and you skipped out JJ as well. So no JJ if we had Eze.
Well.
Sorry, that's another podcast, isn't it?
I think we're going to play different systems as we go. But JJ's only coming back from injury. I think Morgan Rodgers is probably going to start the season on that left. To be honest, personally, I think JJ will be spoon-fed in, and maybe we'll probably see more of JJ when we hit the 2 games a week in September when the Champions League kicks in. But I think for August, I'd be expecting to see mostly Morgan Rodgers on that left, to be honest, personally.
Just very quickly on Morgan Rodgers, though. When we were kind of in dire straits in terms of injuries and stuff, he did come in and like really perform for me. Like it took him a couple of games, didn't it? Like in terms of his tracking back and all these sorts of things and getting used to the pace of the Premier League. But he came in and started to play really, really well. Grabbed himself a few goals as well. Yeah. And in the pre-season so far, he's been head and shoulders, man.
Yeah.
Above the other. I know there's been a lot of youngsters that have been playing, but he has been head and shoulders and looking sharp and looking good, because you know he's been posting on social media about all of the training that he's been doing and showing you and all that kind of stuff. So he might be a sneaky one to watch out for next season.
Absolutely, and I'm sure we'll do an episode in a couple of weeks as well where we kind of talk about our predictions for the season, won't we? Like who's going to be our best player, who's surprise of the season. So I'm kind of
I can't wait to do that.
I'm really looking forward to that. But we'll probably do that maybe the week in the run up to that West Ham game or something, you know, because the squad will look a bit more kind of lively for us, you know. Just on Morgan Rogers though, great point, Des, because I don't think it's unrealistic to say there was probably a 4 or 5 game period in between when he the period in between when he came and just before he got injured. He was probably our best player. He was probably our most productive player for a while. When the other lads were starting to tire, you know, when he scored those goals against Chelsea and scored against Bournemouth, you know, just he was very good. And are you expecting a big season from him right now?
Yeah, he was an important signing last season when he came in. We kind of needed that fresh, you know, impetus, and he sort of provided that. And a couple of injuries and a bit of burnout. He came in, and judging by the preseason he's having, I'm expecting him to kick on. And I think Unai Emery really rates him. And I think, you know, given the game time that he got as soon as he came in from Middlesbrough, I think Unai Emery sort of saw the player he was in training and wasn't afraid to throw him in. And I think that'll be the case again. I do expect him to start on our left-hand side, start of the season. I think they'll take it quite slowly with JJ, Buendia, and I think Mings is a bit further behind again. But I think they'll take the slowly approach with those players coming back. So there's serious injuries, and JJ sort of struggled with injuries for a while before he actually went out for the season, didn't he? He was very stop-start last season. He'd come in for a couple of games, break down.
Never got going at all, did he? He never really got going.
No, he didn't. And he didn't look comfortable. He didn't look himself, which, you know, we know what JJ can do. We know what he's about. So I'm hoping they just get him right and give him the extra time. There's no rush. You know, we'd love to have him around, but we are sort of blessed now, aren't we, with some of these players? You know, you think about Yuri Tielemans coming back and who can play further forward, you know, that allows Rodgers then, instead of play centrally, plays more out on the left, Bailey on the right. McGinn's done a job going further forward. So we're covered on that point. But yeah, I think he's one to watch definitely for the season coming up. And it'll be interesting to see if he does get pushed more central.
Guys, before we wrap up here, Tess, I just want you to give a quick word, and I know you're very happy with how things are going at the moment with the websites from the club and just the general off-field stuff for the majority of stuff. Do you want to just give us a little talk through a little bit about the website changes you've noticed and the content basically that's been coming through on the app and the Villa TV and stuff?
Yeah, I like to try and find some of the positives that we have in our football club. And recently, I've just noticed a bunch of things that have been happening, also to do with the sort of 150th anniversary and all these sorts of things. But, you know, you look at the website, and before it was, I mentioned it before, it was really hard to find anything, you know, and when you're looking at it, it looked like, without being disrespectful, like an amateur had created the website, trying to buy tickets or find your tickets and all these sorts of things were really difficult to do. It just looked a bit dated. When Villa TV came out and you were watching pre-season last time, you know, the stream wouldn't start on time and the commentary wouldn't be there, or there was some sort of issue.
Bit of a mess, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, in my opinion, it was.
Yeah.
And
it's like the start of our podcast, boys, with there's no sound.
We didn't have any sound. We didn't have any sound for ages, and I was like, "Can you hear me or not?" But in fairness, I saw we were asking, and I was asking on social media, and we asked as a podcast, and we asked as individuals, along with other Villa supporters. Where is the pre-season going to be? Where are the pre-season TV? You know, is there a subscription? Can we watch the games? And we didn't get anything until the last minute, really, did we? Like, it was a day before, 2 days before, and I think it was £24.99. You pay for that subscription and you get all of the pre-season games. Where I think last year was a lot more expensive. And you can only watch certain games if you were in certain countries and if you were in the UK. you were limited to watching a certain amount of games, but you couldn't watch other ones. And if you were international, you couldn't watch the ones that were all to do with TV rights and stuff. And I think they've nailed it this time.
Yeah, and they gave it free to season ticket holders, which I thought was really fair as well.
Nice touch, because season ticket holders, they pay their money up front. It's a lot of money to commit.
Yeah,
people are young, they have families, all these sorts of things, but they commit to the club.
They should definitely have access to the preseason games. You know what I mean?
And they should absolutely have access to that kind of stuff. I there's a bunch of stuff that I think season tickets should be entitled to as season ticket holders, but I think that's another podcast at a later time. But $24.99, and we can watch all of the preseason games. The commentary was good. The picture was really good. Didn't have any cutouts or anything like that, and it was just nice to. I think Ian Taylor was on one of them actually co-commentating.
Yeah, he was. There was the game I watched. The second game I watched that against Spartak Treverne or whatever.
Yeah, and that was nice. I think he did Warsaw as well, didn't he? I think he may have done Warsaw as well.
I watched that now, but I was after a good. I kind of half watched it actually, but I didn't watch it live. I watched the Spartak Treverne. I came back after watched the Walsall game live the next day when I came home from work, but. Just loads of stuff going on. It was barely
just like things like that. Anyway, sorry, I was just saying, just little things like that is a really nice touch to have old club legends and all these sorts of things taking part in this pre-season stuff. You notice on the website also that there are font changes. I know these seem like really small details, but the writing that we have at the moment makes everything look really appealing.
Aesthetic,
the videos, content, in terms of we're watching. For example, the players who have signed, the little videos that we're getting of them and seeing them training and seeing them sign, the interviews that they're doing. All right, caveat, the interview questions need to be revamped in some way. They ask the same questions to every single player and the players have rehearsed the answers. Let's get a bit more creative with that. But the videos look great. You know, the introductions look great. Did you guys watch the kit launch?
Yeah, it's class.
Oh my god,
unreal.
If anyone says that was rubbish or crap, I don't know what you're watching. That's awesome for me. I saw that and I was like, yes.
It's probably one of the best things the club's released for a long time, I think, on that front, isn't it? For kit stuff and just media. Like that video and just getting, old players in and, obviously members of Black Sabbath involved and it's just really well done though, isn't it? I just think that stuff, like you say, Tess, on, the videos and the content that is coming out has been really good quality and I'm really enjoying it. For someone like me with two little kids, I haven't got a lot of time to watch Villa-related content, so the small sort of videos and the little updates they keep putting out have been really good.
They keep coming.
I'm loving it.
They keep coming and you can't get away from it. If you're following Villa on social media, you're not getting away from any of it. They're reposting stuff. They're putting little short clips up. They're getting the players to put short clips up. John McGinn's putting short clips up, wearing the new shirt. Onana's putting new clips up. Ian Matson saying how delighted he is to be at Villa Park with Villa Park behind him and all these kinds of things. There was a nice little... so if you like phone wallpapers, there was a nice little email that came around, for the kit launch and everything, and it says you can have a free wallpaper of Ollie Watkins or Leon Bailey or whatever it is, but you just have to complete the puzzle. And there's a little puzzle there, and you just have to slide these like little puzzle pieces.
I didn't get that email, funnily enough. Like, where did you get that?
Yeah, I got that email for the kit launch.
Okay, I didn't get that.
I don't think I did.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't you? Well, you're not popular like I am, guys. So,
knowing me without meaning to, I probably didn't click the. When you get to click the button, when you do your membership and it's like, do you want content from this? Maybe I didn't tick the box, maybe or something. I do do get emails from them all the time, but I didn't get that one. No, I must say.
I think when you read, it's not on the. So when you read down the email, there's a kind of like
drop boxes
down, and it says
yes
for free content or something like that.
I got that email.
Yeah. So and I did that to get like a free Watkins wallpaper, but these are just little tiny things to keep fans engaged, whereas we didn't really have that kind of engagement before.
That's the Chris Hecht effect, because that kind of content is very American franchise
it
club
is.
kind of thing, and it's what he's been brought in to do, isn't it? It's like,
I used to click through these emails. Honestly, I used to look at them and I used to just press delete because there was nothing that was keeping me looking at the page or anything. But I've got to give hands. I think it's starting to look really great, and it's not only just for that social media and that content part, but it's content you expect from a big club.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you
One
look at
thing
the
I'm
kids
really
doing
happy
proper
with.
video. Yeah, proper
One thing
video
I'm
of
really
the
happy
of
with,
doing
boys,
stuff.
is the kits being available in like 120 countries, right? And obviously we live in Australia, so you go to a Rebel Sport previously, you'd never see a Villa kit there, or you might see one Villa shirt there, which is 3XL, say. But now you can get access to the kit at JD Sports in Australia, and I'm hoping there's going to be a large presence in the in the stores as well. I'm hoping it's going to grow the profile of the club, over here. We got Joe Gauchi at the club. I'm hoping the club being in the Champions League, being in a really good patch at the moment, we're going to start to see an influx of new Villa supporters in Australia, and having the merchandise readily available and the kits available and visible over you, I think, is a massive thing for growing the fan base in
You
different
have to have it.
countries. I think,
You're never going to grow
yeah,
otherwise if you can. Like everything can't be online. Like sometimes you got to have a kid go in and fall in love with a shirt on a rack that he's never seen before. It's
yeah, and this is the time to strike. We're playing well. The profile of the club is really high. Champions League football.
exposure. Yeah,
The exposure's there. So I'm really excited to see how that sort of pans out, especially in Australia. Now I'm going to be keeping my eye out in JD Sports and seeing where all the kits are. And hopefully, we get an influx of new Villa supporters, in Australia, and, we start growing the fan base more.
guys. Before I wrap up, I just want to give a quick shout out there to all the listeners. There's been a noticeable growth in our views on the YouTube channel. The likes are being hit more. The comments are coming through. Same with the audios. So thanks to every one of you out there, to the listeners who are taking their time out to hit the subscribe and hit the like after they listen to the show, because it's huge for us. I don't think people realize how much even a small hitting the thumbs helps the video get spread out in the algorithms and stuff. So thanks to every one of you. There's been a big growth in that in the last week or two with the episode. So keep doing it. And if you are watching this episode, please just hit that thumbs up for us. Hit that subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent, but it just gets us moving, lads. And I can't emphasize that enough. So it only takes a second just to hit the like, but it does help massively. Tess, if the listeners want to get in touch with you, where can they find you, Matt?
They can find me on all socials at Cuban_Knight, KNIGHT.
And what about yourself, Rhino?
I'm on X, Rhino_Watkins. I'm on Facebook. You'll see me commenting on, the Villa Pride Down Under posts and liking things. And then I'm also on Instagram, Ryan_Watkins3.
What's your OnlyFans?
That's $50 to find out, mate.
And I can be found at AVFC Spud, capital A, capital S, or Mark Spud Homes on Instagram and Facebook. But more importantly, Tess, can you tell them where to find the podcast on the socials, please?
Yeah, so you can find our podcast on the socials at Pride Down Under on X, and on Instagram it'll be at Villa Pride Down Under. We couldn't get the same one for both, unfortunately. Somebody stole the other one, so I have to have word with my mate Elon, see what's going on with that, try and get that changed over. But that's where you can find us. Also, if you search for the Villa Pride Down Under podcast on Facebook, you should be able to find our page there. Please join, interact with us, ask us questions. We really want to answer the questions. We really want to just engage with our Australian-based fans and supporters, which we have been doing. There have been some really, really nice feedback, comments coming through, some really nice questions coming through as well. Because we have an audience who are listening in a few countries now at the moment. For England, obviously England, Ireland, the UK, and we've got some few in another few countries as well. But we're here in Australia, and we really want to sort of reach out to our Australian Villa supporters so that we can just build this community and talk about Aston Villa, because we're fortunate over here. We get to watch every single game if we want to. and we don't have to sit down and wait for Gary Lineker and Ian Wright and those kinds of people to give us like 3 minutes at the end of a show to watch the game. So, yeah, we just really want to communicate and we just want to talk Aston Villa, really. You know, guys, that's why we're here. We just want to talk Aston Villa, a few blokes having a decent conversation just about our opinions on the football club that we love, and we just want to share that with everybody. So, yeah, please, you're invited to come and join us.
Yeah, and that's a good way to sign off. Up the Villa.
Up the
Up
Villa.
the Villa.